Defensive tackle Shelby Harris has some kind words for Shedeur Sanders to dispel this whole he's a distraction in the locker room that a reporter like Jason Lloyd has tried to convey and try to outwardly lie about. Defensive tackle Shelby Harris. This is what he had to say about Shedeur Sanders. And it just points to the fact that Shedeur has real support inside the Browns locker room. I feel like he gets an unfair rep from a lot of people about something they don't know about. He's a great kid in the locker room. Defensive tackle Shelby Harris. Verbatim. A veteran in the locker room, an 11-year guy in the league, a respected guy in the locker room. He goes out of his way to say, hey, this guy's not a distraction in the locker room. He's a great kid. He gets along with people. Now, once upon a time, I do remember a quarterback in Cleveland called Baker Mayfield. There was a contract negotiation with Duke Johnson, a former running back with the Cleveland Browns. If you know, you know. All my Cleveland Browns fans, they can definitely attest to this. And he was saying some unsavory things about his teammate. That's kind of where the friction was between OBJ and Baker. Baker was just talking out the side of his neck and was just talking reckless. And when you have your quarterback talking like that, talking reckless, that causes real friction inside the locker room. That ultimately led to Baker Mayfield being jettisoned out of Cleveland. Now let's fast forward to Shedeur. And all these narratives pertaining to Shedeur being a distraction, the locker room not liking him. A defensive tackle comes out with support of Shedeur. So what Jason Lloyd got to say about that? Of course, they're going to backtab. They're going to, they're kind of, backpedal away from that. Now, they're trying to get back on the Deshaun Watson. These are the same people that said Deshaun Watson was trash when he was on the field. Now, because y'all don't like Shedeur Sanders, y'all going to try to buy into the anyone but Shedeur narrative. So y'all just going to try to be like, oh, Deshaun Watson, yeah, he's a real option at quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. What? Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'm a Cleveland Browns fan ultimately. If they choose to go that direction, I'm fine with that. But there's nothing Deshaun Watson has shown me in Cleveland that would lead me to believe that he should be the guy above Shedeur Sanders. Even the owners come out and say, hey, that was a swing and miss on our part. So, yeah, y'all can think that Deshaun Watson is going to be the QB1. If the owner has something to say about that, I won't really see that happening. But getting back to this locker room support thing, Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward on both fronts at Super Bowl Row on different platforms. I believe Myles Garrett with the Michael Parsons podcast, he came out pretty much as like, well, he ended the season as a guy, so he's going to get his opportunity. We're looking at him as our guy. That's telling right there. Myles Garrett said, we're looking at him as our guy. Let's decipher that. We're looking at him as our guy. All right? That entails that he has support in the locker room. Okay? These jokers in Cleveland media, they will try to tell you and spin you a narrative and spin you a story that Shedeur Sanders doesn't have support in the locker room, which is unequivocally false. You have Shelby Harris. Then you have the main component on the team, the captain, the best player on the team, two-time defensive player of the year, actually the unanimous player of the year. He got all 50 out of 50 votes for the NFL Defensive Player of the Year. When you have your best player on your team supporting the future QB1 for the Cleveland Browns and Shedeur Sanders, you got Myles Garrett throwing his support to him. And then when asked by Michael Parsons about the $46 million quarterback on the roster, he paused for a little bit. That pause was telling. He was like, well, everybody's going to get a chance on the roster. He didn't really have the same energy for Deshaun Watson that he had for Shedeur Sanders. I'm just saying, all right? If we're like nitpicking, I saw the interview, I'm nitpicking. He had a lot more better energy for the Shedeur Sanders response. And you can't fake enthusiasm. You can't fake with what happened at the Raiders game. I was at the Raiders game live. I was in Las Vegas live for Shedeur's first start. Okay? You cannot fake that. You can't fake enthusiasm. You can't fake Myles Garrett when Shedeur rolled out to the right, launched the ball to Isaiah Bond. The energy at Allegiant Stadium was amazing because it was mainly Browns fans. It was probably about 55, 45, probably Raiders to Browns fans. But eventually when the Browns was, they was whooping that ASS on the Raiders, it turned into a Browns home game. It was a glorious thing. It was a fantastic experience. So the throw to Isaiah Bond, yeah. You look, the camera panned to Myles Garrett. And Myles Garrett was like, that was his reaction, bro. That was Myles Garrett's reaction. Like, bro, we ain't see that all year with Joe Flacco. We ain't seen that with Dylan Gabriel. We ain't seen that with Tiny Hands, Kenny Pickett. They ain't seen that the whole offseason. They ain't see it in any game before the Raiders game last year. The first 10 games of the year, we didn't have that kind of excitement. You can't fake that type of enthusiasm and that type of excitement in Myles Garrett. I'm just saying, Myles Garrett throwing the support for Shedeur Sanders. Shelby Harris has thrown the support for Shedeur Sanders. Denzel Ward, like four or five time Pro Bowler, a Cleveland kid, an Ohio kid through and through, Ohio State alum. Denzel Ward, maybe not as enthusiastic as Shelby Harris or as enthusiastic as Myles Garrett, but Denzel Ward he was one of the first people when they drafted Shedeur in the 5th round. If you go back in history, he was one of the first people that tweeted out, yeah, all right, we got Shedeur. So Denzel Ward, even though he wasn't as enthusiastic about Shedeur as Shelby Harris or Myles Garrett, I ain't going to hold that against him. He's playing the middleman. He's playing right down the middle. He ain't really trying to tilt his hand too much like Myles Garrett did. I mean, Myles Garrett can do that. He's a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. He's goated. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. So he has more cachet than Denzel Ward, even though Denzel Ward is a Pro Bowler. But with that said, Denzel Ward, initially, when Shedeur got drafted, he threw his support for Shedeur. Shedeur has support in the locker room. Let's stop these narratives that Shedeur doesn't have any support in the locker room, that he's a distraction in the locker room. I'll end with this. Jason Lloyd actually went on UCSS, not recently, but he has in the past, and tried to spew, actually on 92.3 The Fan, the radio station that's in Cleveland. He tried to spew this nonsense that Shedeur was a distraction in the locker room, and that's why he needs to be cut from the team. Anthony Lima also harped these sentiments, that he's a distraction in the locker room. They couldn't even give examples out of the infamous Myman incident that he had. Now, even the most hardened Shedeurian out there could probably be like, hey, yeah, that was a misstep. Okay. After that, you really didn't see Shedeur talk to the media, because I'm pretty sure Andrew Berry was like, yeah, we're not gonna have you talk to the media after that until you're the starter. And you didn't hear anything from Shedeur until he was named the starter for the Raiders game. With that being said, yeah, Anthony Lima and Jason Lloyd, y'all narratives of Shedeur being a distraction in the locker room just fell flat on your face. Y'all gonna need a different narrative. Y'all see, when one narrative falls on their face, they need to, spin it into another narrative. Now the new narrative is going to be, oh yeah, Deshaun Watson. Can there be a resurgence in Deshaun Watson? Or it's gonna be, oh, let's bring in Malik Willis or Kirk Cousins. See, this is anything but Shedeur, anyone but Shedeur narrative. It's gonna spin like Charlotte's Web into a whole different dichotomy of what can we do, what can we drum up so that there's reasonable doubt for Shedeur Sanders. But hey, here's the thing. Todd Monken, Shedeur Sanders guy. Shelby Harris, Shedeur Sanders guy. Andrew Berry, Shedeur Sanders guy. I'm just saying, Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, Wyatt Teller, who might not be on the team, Shedeur guys. Shedeur has support in the locker room. Let's bump this narrative that Shedeur doesn't have any support in the locker room, because it's unequivocally false. All right, KSK Sports rolling out. Like and subscribe. Help your boy get to 500 subs. I appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Happy Black History Month. All right, rolling out. Peace.